I'm standing in one of the most iconic places in Australia, really. This is Martin Place in Sydney CBD. It's a place known for its banking, its high-end shops, an area where people come who work in the CBD for lunch. And, of course, regional towns have their festivals here to display their wares, their wine, their food. On grand final and state of origin times, we've got footballers throwing the football around and trying to bring people into the game. And over here, we've got the old Channel 7 building. It is vibrant. It is a magic place. People smile. Those who come from outside of Sydney can't help but come to Martin Place. It crosses 7 streets and the main drag, George Street, as well. And it's also dominated by the Cenotaph on the western end of Martin Place, which, as you'd appreciate, on Anzac Day and Remembrance Day, is a place of solemn dignity, a place where we give thanks and we remember those who lost their lives in various theatres of war. That's the only time when people aren't happy in this location, except, of course, it does have one shadowy past.
Shortly after 2 this morning, teams of tactical response police stormed the Lindt Cafe from either end, guns blazing. The cafe lit up with bursts of bullets and flashbangs, stun grenades, leaving the gunman dazed and some 15 hostages terrified.
That was 10 years ago, would you believe? The Lindt Cafe siege, where we lost 2 innocent people and, of course, the gunman himself. There's a plaque inside what was the Lindt Cafe and is now a bottle shop remembering the 2 lives that were lost. So for many people, the mention of Martin Place does bring up the memory of extreme Islam, and extreme Islam on show for all to see in the Lindt Cafe siege.
A field of flowers in central Sydney and tears of grief for the dead as the city mourns in the wake of a bloody hostage-taking in a nearby cafe that lasted for 16 hours.
And that brings me to this place. This is the Commando Memorial Seat, where people at lunchtime can be found sitting around enjoying their lunch and giving some thought to the commandos that represented our country in various theatres of war, as it says in World War II, in Vietnam, in Afghanistan, in Iraq and Timor-Leste. In Afghanistan, of course, there is a link to extreme Islam because our commandos put their lives on the line to drive extreme Islam out of Afghanistan. This is the Commando Memorial Seat and something that is solemn, I would have thought, to most veterans of that time. And so it makes me quite astounded to see that only 20 metres just down here to the eastern end of Martin Place at the moment, we've got a miniature version of the Kaaba, the most integral symbol of the Islamic religion, the place where people go to Saudi Arabia, to Mecca, to give pilgrimage. As a matter of fact, Muslims pray 5 times a day in the direction of the Kaaba in Mecca. And here it is on the eastern end of Martin Place in Sydney. And given what has just happened in recent times, I can't think of something more inappropriate. Excuse me, madam. Sorry, I'm from ADH-TV. I'm just wondering, do you know what this monument is all about?
Custody.
You're saying it's an atrocity?
I am.
I'm just wondering, ladies, what your thoughts are seeing a small miniature version of the Kaaba sitting in the eastern end of Martin Place.
Bloody weird.
It is odd, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
I presume they're going to put in a replica of the Vatican next week.
Well, the Greek Orthodox Church. Yeah. Yeah, ain't gonna happen.
That ain't going to happen. I'm wondering what you think of the fact that we've got a miniature version of what's existed in Mecca for the Islamic religion in the middle of Martin Place. What are your thoughts?
I was intrigued by it.
Intrigued?
Yeah.
It's odd that it would be here. I don't understand why it's here.
I don't mind that it's here.
Yeah, I just wonder why something like that is here in Martin Place, though.
I wonder if it's been put up with all the pro-Palestinian protests.
And right across the road, only 40 metres away, is the State Parliament. And one of the independent MPs in the State Parliament is Mark Latham. Mark, thank you very much for your time. Tell me a little bit about your reaction to seeing a miniature version of the Kaaba on the eastern end of Martin Place.
Well, it's not the first time it's been here. It was here earlier in the year, I think around the time of Ramadan. But it's very insensitive and tone deaf to have it here at the current time. On Monday, we've got the anniversary of the 7th of October, Hamas terrorist attacks on Israel. And 100 metres up the road just today, there's a court case to try and stop what would be a protest, more likely a celebration by parts of the Islamic community on the 7th of October. So I think it's just plain wrong to have it here. We should have a separation of church and state. This is a public area run by the City Council, with Clover Moore as the Lord Mayor. And I would have thought, just as we've got no Christian church replica here or Jewish synagogue or Buddhist temple, it's better for government in all shapes and forms to stay out of the holy wars that you've got in the Middle East, the violence, the attempts to bring it to Australia with these protests with Hezbollah symbols and flags. Isn't it better for Australia just to stay out of all of that and not have this sort of Islamic symbol here right in the middle of Martin Place?
And what I find quite odd is that I have never seen other religions represented in any form in the middle of Martin Place anywhere. Now, you work here, you should know better than I do.
Yeah, I've walked up and down Martin Place a lot. I've only ever seen this Muslim replica here in the middle of Martin Place. You don't see a Christian church, a Jewish synagogue, a Buddhist temple, any of that, of course, and you shouldn't, because the symbols and the memorials in Martin Place about the commandos, about the original Martin, further down the Anzac Memorial. These are all points of national unity and national focus, rather than just one religion, which unfortunately the current time is being used by some people in Sydney as a point of division, potential violence, leading protest, and I'm afraid that this particular symbol can only encourage those people.
What's your message to Clover Moore, who no doubt would have had to sign off on this structure?
Will maintain the separation of church and state that keeps Australia peaceful. If people don't bring their holy war, violence and conflict from the Middle East, we're better off, of course. And in the case of these protests, they're illegal, they shouldn't be happening. And unfortunately, the City Council here with this particular display can only provide a focal point for those types of protests and that illegal activity.